Have you ever wondered what hygiene was like in the Mongol Empire? Despite their high regard for water, the Mongols spent most of their lives dirty and unwashed, which led to some interesting health remedies. Gout, a common ailment among the Mongols, was thought to be cured by sticking the affected body part into a dead animal or person. In this video, we'll explore the hygiene practices of the Mongols, from their reverence for water to their avoidance of washing clothes in running water. You'll also learn about their understanding of contagion and quarantine measures for the sick. So, stay tuned to find out more about the fascinating hygiene practices of the Mongol Empire. Despite their reverence for water and efforts to avoid polluting it, the Mongols weren't exactly known for their cleanliness. Their lack of hygiene resulted in some peculiar health practices, such as treating gout by sticking the affected limb into a dead animal or human. Even the great Kublai Khan suffered from severe gout, which hindered his abilities as a leader and warrior. But the remedies didn't end there. One healer suggested inserting the affected foot into the belly of a red-haired baby, while another military leader resorted to feeding his own entrails to dogs after unsuccessfully trying this approach on 30 children. Franciscan missionary William of Rubruck explored the Mongol Empire in the mid-13th century and recorded his findings. Hairstyles worn by the Mongols were one of the many things he noted. Men only had long hair on the sides of their heads, which they braided, and shaved their heads along the temples, necks, and foreheads. In contrast, women shaved the front of their heads after getting married and let the rest of their hair grow out long. Additionally, according to William, the Mongols would fill their mouths with water before letting it drip onto their hands and hair to avoid offending the water, which they revered. The Mongols had a strong reverence for water and thought that it should not be offended, according to modern sources. Anyone who allowed water to touch their face and then returned it to the water source would be put to death, according to Genghis Khan, who founded the Mongol Empire. Given that it was probably created to prevent water from spilling back into the source, this belief may have influenced the unusual way the Mongols washed their hair. The Mongols, who were expert archers, were frequently struck by arrows. They fixed this by hiring a servant or retainer whose job it was to suck out the blood from the arrow wounds. After suffering numerous injuries, Genghis Khan attributed his survival to the toil of these men. Genghis Khan once cut his neck and began gushing blood, according to The Secret History of the Mongols, a book published in the 1300s. Right away, his servant Gelm came to his aid, sucking out the blood from the wound and either spitting it out or swallowing it. Khan's thirst was then quenched by Gelm, who went in search of fermented milk and water. Rashid al-Din, a Persian physician and historian, captured a quote from Genghis Khan following a night spent preventing harmful blood clots. Khan allegedly claimed that the blood-sucking exercise restored the spark of life that had been extinguished, allowing him to move once more. There were a number of religious taboos observed by the Mongols, and Genghis Khan's laws were strictly upheld. Water was sacred to the Mongols, and contaminating it was a crime. In addition to being forbidden from washing their bodies or hands in the spring and summer due to the fear of thunderstorms, they were also not permitted to wash their clothes in running water. Release of bodily fluids into a body of water, such as a river or stream, was also a capital offense and one of the most severe crimes. Before anyone could enter or take anything from someone's home, if they had unintentionally urinated in running water, they had to make restitution to the offended party. The Yasa claimed that washing clothes in running water was strictly prohibited for Mongols. Some academics insisted that the rule only applied during thunderstorms, but William of Rubruck thought it was a result of the worry that washing clothes would bring on a storm. The Mongols didn't wash their clothes because, according to William, they were afraid that if they hung them up to dry, God would become enraged and it would thunder. Because they were so terrified of thunder, they would hide inside their homes until it subsided. Anyone found washing their clothes in running water was beaten rather than permitted to do so. It was taken seriously and strictly enforced that the Mongols did not like to wash their clothes. Khan imposed a stringent dress code on his subjects, ordering them to keep wearing the same clothes until they were worn out. this was crucial for high-ranking officials who ran the risk of being imprisoned inside an ox's open cavity if they were hurt in combat, as was the case during the attack on Shoyang in 1274. Bayan, one of Kublai Khan's dependable commanders, gave the order to place a warrior inside the belly of a water buffalo or an ox so that he could receive life-saving warmth after being struck by a projectile and an arrow. Due to their infrequent washing after meals and habit of smearing grease, fat, and meat on their clothing, Mongols were infamous for having filthy hands and clothing. However, these animal fats provided some defense against the severe weather of the steppes of Central Asia. It was customary for Mongols to wrap their outer clothing in fat and grease to make it water and windproof. Washing would remove this protective layer. Mongols valued herding animals and indicating that only men of affluent status engaged in this activity. Despite their ignorance of disease and germ theory, the Mongols understood contagion and instituted quarantine measures for the sick. They were aware of the possibility of contamination and took measures to bar visitors during times of illness. The affected area was surrounded by guards, and priests were called in to perform healing rites. Even though they believed that sickness was caused by a spiritual disorder, the Mongols took precautions to protect themselves from getting sick so that they wouldn't have to worry about contracting it. They were aware of the potential dangers that could arise from bringing sick people into a city that was under siege, as doing so could result in widespread illness and widespread destruction. In addition to being concerned about the spread of disease, the Mongols believed that choking while eating was caused by a demon that needed to be eradicated. When someone coughs up food after they've choked on it, they're contributing to environmental pollution and wasting food at the same time. John of P. and Del Carpine both said that if someone committed such a heinous crime, they would be dragged out of the house through a hole and executed in a particularly gruesome manner. A Chinese dietary and nutritional manual that dates back to the Yuan dynasty was written by Wu Suhui, offers a novel point of view on the practice of spitting. Spitting is something that the author of the manual recommends not doing or doing it very infrequently. The implication is that there are numerous varieties of spitting and that each one may have been subject to a unique form of punishment. During the time of the Mongols, it was customary for Mongols to drink from a single cup. Genghis Khan included a section on the widespread irrational fear of poison that permeated Mongol society in his legal code known as the Yasa. In order to guarantee the integrity of the food, no one was permitted to consume anything before the person who was presenting it had done so. Because Genghis Khan's father had previously been poisoned and died as a result of eating contaminated food that his enemies had given to him, this was done as a precautionary measure against poison. Visitors to the Kuyukan court were even put through a fire purification process to ensure that they were not carrying any potentially harmful substances. Chinese observers observed that during Mongol feasts, a single bowl or cup was used for everyone to drink from. This practice demonstrates the Mongols' fear of poison extended to their drinking practices. As we wrap up our exploration of hygiene in the Mongol Empire, it's clear that the attitudes and practices towards cleanliness were quite different from what we know today. While the Mongols held water in high regard and took measures to avoid polluting it, they also spent most of their lives dirty and unwashed, resorting to some unusual health remedies. Despite their lack of understanding of germ theory, they recognized contagion and instituted quarantine measures for the sick. From their strict dress code to their fear of thunderstorms, the Mongols had a unique relationship with cleanliness and hygiene. It's fascinating to consider how their beliefs and practices evolved over time, and how they might have influenced the cultures and societies that came after them. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the hygiene practices of the Mongol Empire. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel for more content like this. And don't forget to leave a comment below to share your thoughts and insights about ancient Chinese hygiene practices. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.